Hey everyone, welcome back to Gate Academy. So today I'm going to talk about a very important question which is frequently being asked in interviews. So the question is, what is your weakness or what are your weaknesses? Now this question may be asked in a lot of different ways. As in, what do you think are your development areas? Have you set a self-development goal for yourself? Or which tasks do you struggle with the most? What does your friends or your colleagues describe as your weakness? So there are a lot of different ways in which the interviewer would want to know whether you're aware of yourself or not. So now in this video, I will be sharing basically three things. The first thing that I'll be sharing would be, why does an interviewer ask this question? Second, I'll be sharing certain tips on how to answer the question. And number third, I will be sharing certain sample answers which you can conveniently customize for yourself and use it in your upcoming interviews. So let's start. So why does an interviewer or the recruiter ask this question? What do they want to know? So by asking this question, the recruiter basically want to know three things. Number one, whether you are honest enough to give a real weakness. Number two, whether you have the ability to analyze yourself or not. And number three, to see whether you are trying to or you're willing to improve upon your weakness, right? Because they also understand that nobody can be perfect. As we have strengths, we tend to have weaknesses too. Even the recruiter themselves, उनकी भी कोई ना कोई weaknesses होगी ही होगी. So it is completely okay to admit your weaknesses. All right. So now I'll start giving some tips. So tip number one, you need to be really honest while answering the question. But at the same time, you need to choose a weakness which is not very relevant to the job profile that you're applying for. For example, you cannot afford to say that you cannot work well in a team, because these days almost every job profile that you're going to apply for, you will have a team of people specialized in different works coming up together on projects and working. So these kind of answers need to be avoided. Instead you need to choose weakness which is not relevant to your job profile. Coming to tip number two, you should never raise red flags by saying that you do not have any weakness, right? हमको ऐसा बताया जाता है या कुछ हम अपने आप में इतने ओवर कॉन्फिडेंट होते हैं that we bluntly say that I do not have any weakness, I am a perfectionist. So this word is to be avoided in interviews for sure. आपको बिल्कुल नहीं बोलना है that you do not have any weaknesses, because हमारे हर एक इंसान के अंदर कोई ना कोई कमी होती ही है which needs to be taken care of, है ना? So आपको बिल्कुल भी नहीं बोलना है that you do not have any weakness. Tip number three, which is very, very important, is that once you mention your weakness, you need to tell the interviewer what initiatives are you taking to address your weakness, है ना? So this is what you need to add on once you finish answering your weakness. So tip number one was that you need to be honest. Tip number two was that you are not supposed to say that you do not have any weakness. And tip number three is that the initiatives that you're taking to address your weakness, right? So now here you go with some sample answers. So sample answer number one could be, I consider public speaking as my weakness. I would genuinely love to have the confidence to stand up in front of people and talk. I am, really trying hard to get over this, and for this I've been taking some classes on public speaking since last 3 months, and I would want to share with you that earlier when I was given presentation in the class, I would get so nervous that I would end up spoiling my presentation. But it was after these classes that I gained the confidence, and now I'm in a better position than I was 3 months back. But I understand that I have a long way to go. Still there is a lot more for me to learn, and yes, I will definitely, continue practicing this, and I'm sure in very less time I will get over this weakness. So this is sample number 1, which you can use if you have that fear of public speaking, if you have that fear of standing in front of people and talk. So ये एक बहुत अच्छी weakness है जो आप बोल सकते हैं, but at the same time as I said कि हमें बताना है हम क्या steps ले रहे हैं उसको overcome करने के लिए. So that's going to be a perfect answer. All right. So sample answer number 2. I am sometimes too sensitive, and I hence would take the criticism personally. However, time made me realize that for a person to grow and improve, one should take criticism as constructive and as a positive thing. So I am learning to be mindful in situations like these. So there have been like students coming up to me and saying, "Ma'am, I'm very sensitive, so can I mention this weakness in the interview?" And then when I ask them to give the reason, then they say that so and so friend has hurt me, and I trust people easily. So it is okay to be sensitive. It is okay to mention this as your weakness, but then the reason you're giving should not be like आपका ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि मैं लोगों को easily trust कर लेती हूँ, so वो मुझे धोखा देते हैं, all of it, nobody is interested in knowing it, ठीक है ना? So if at all you're going to use this as your weakness, आपको definitely कुछ meaningful से relate करना जरूरी है. जैसे यहाँ पे कि भैया मुझे कोई criticize करता है तो मैं उसको personally ले लेता है. I tend to start feeling bad, but then you should always be taking criticism positively, because कोई criticize कर रहा है, अगर आपकी गलतियाँ बता रहा है, that means you need improvement. All right. So it is important for you to justify the answer in a very meaningful way. So yes, too sensitive can be mentioned as a weakness, but your justification should be meaningful. So this was sample answer number 2. So another good weakness that you can mention in interviews is that you can say that I find it really hard to say no to people. I always say yes to everything, even if I do not have capacity to do so. But I have experienced that by saying yes to everything and by taking too many responsibilities, making too many promises, it has led to problems. So now what I've started doing is, before saying yes to anything, I first tend to analyze my situation and I see whether I'll be able to keep up to the promises or not. So yes, this was one thing which I was struggling really hard with, and I've started taking care of it now. So yeah, this is again one weakness which you can mention. So another weakness that you may mention in the interview is that you can say, I've actually been told by a lot of people that I am too blunt or too direct while giving a feedback or while sharing an opinion. So but I've realized not everyone knows that I'm a straightforward person and would say whatever is there in my mind. But then I realized not everybody would take that in a positive way, and I am very sure that it is not going to work well in professional setting as well. So now I have, like, since last 4-5 months, I've realized and I have practiced being a little polite and communicating what I feel in a positive way, in a more polite manner rather. So yes, ये भी आप बोल सकते हैं. अगर आप straight forward बोलने की आदत है आपको तो आप ऐसा बोल सकते हैं. But yes, in a professional setting हमें थोड़ा तो diplomatic होना ही पड़ता है. Otherwise आपको team work में problem आएगी, काफ़ी सारी चीज़ों में आपको trouble होगा. So whenever you have anything to say, it is always better to be polite. Imagine yourself, आप किसी से कुछ बात कर रहे हो, किसी से कुछ feedback मांग रहे हो और वो आपको जो तरीका होता है बात करने का, that is something which affects अगर आप कोई एक नेगेटिव चीज़ भी बहुत अच्छे से बहुत प्यार से अगर बोल रहे हो, सो पीपल आर डेफिनेटली गोना टेक इट पॉजिटिवली. बट ऑन द अदर हैंड कुछ अच्छी चीज़ भी बोल रहे हो बट बुरी तरह से बोल रहे हो तो इट माइट क्रिएट प्रॉब्लम्स. सो ये भी वीकनेस है जो आप इंटरव्यू में मेंशन कर सकते हो. ऑलराइट. सो अनदर वीकनेस दैट यू कुड मेंशन इन द इंटरव्यू इज दैट यू कैन से दैट आई हैव like faced difficulty in sharing my ideas in a group setting. So when I was in my first and second year, I would not even utter a word when it comes to group discussions, but then soon I realized that this is something which is going to affect me after, once once the placement session would come, I would definitely lag behind my fellow mates. So then I started taking improvement classes and I would participate in every kind of activities, and I would, I have participated in a lot of mock GDs which were being held in the institute, and I'm glad to say that I have improved myself a lot in the past few years. and yes, I'm gonna continue the same in future as well. So ये एक और weakness है which you can mention. इसी तरह से बेटा और भी होता है which is जो job से आपके कहीं से भी related ही ना हो, वैसी कुछ weaknesses भी आप identify करके mention कर देते हैं. So मैंने कुछ 4-5 sample answers आपके साथ में share किए हैं, तो आपको एक idea मिल गया होगा कि किस तरीके से अगर weakness पूछी जाए तो आपको mention करनी है. तो yes, you can use this. So what we've discussed in the video so far, सबसे पहले हमने देखा कि इंटरव्यू ये क्वेश्चन पूछते क्यों हैं. दूसरा मैंने आपको थोड़ी टिप्स बताई कि किस तरीके से आपको आंसर करना है, क्या है. तीसरा मैंने बड़े सारे आपके साथ में सैम्पल आंसर शेयर किए हैं. तो यस, नाउ आई बिलीव इफ यू कम अप विद सच क्वेश्चन इन द इंटरव्यू, आई एम श्योर you'll be in a better position to answer. So yeah, I will see you guys soon. Bye bye, take care, bye.